Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good afternoon. We're going to get things started off here in just a second. Markets are winding down. We've got, less than a minute here, about 15 seconds or so to see where the final markets end up. It looks like, based on what we're seeing right now, is we have a real strong potential for the S&P 500 to break its win streak. We're going to dig in. My name is Daniel. I'm with VantagePoint AI. Welcome if you're already in the room and you're listening live and watching live on YouTube. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch live. We're going to give everybody a chance to get logged in today's session. If you could, hop over to the chat box. Make sure everything is working on your side of things. Hello. Hey, AJ. Nice to see you in here. All right. Scab Buzz. Hello. Hi. Looks like things are working. You can hear my voice. You can see my screen. It's always important to cross-check and make sure that's working as designed. So looks like it's working as designed. I see several people in the room, so we're going to get fired up here in just a second. Claudio, hello, hello. Nice to see you. David, hello as well. Fire off a little heart at you guys. Make sure you know that glad that you're here. Hello, Phil. Thank you. So interesting week this week in the markets. You know, we've had a lot of volatility leading up to this point, and then this week it just kind of like comes to a screeching halt. Obviously, with FOMC tomorrow, and then the results of Jackson Hole coming shortly after that. We've got a lot of wait and see sentiment going on in the markets. There's been a shift from dramatic fear to a little bit more greed. There's so many things going on in the markets right now. I'm glad we're able to hop into VantagePoint and talk about what we're seeing based on the artificial intelligence. So again, if you've just joined and you haven't joined before, my name is Daniel. I'm with VantagePoint AI. And I'm going to today just walk through interpretation of the VantagePoint artificial intelligence software and what I'm seeing in the markets. I'm going to do the analysis that I do on a regular basis, day in and day out, with the predictive indicators that I use. If you've got any questions as I do that analysis and you want me to dig into any specific information, by all means, please let me know what it might be. I'll be happy to dig in. Just use a chat box. I'll keep my eye on the chat box. My team's here. They're going to keep their eye on the chat box as well. And if there's something that pops up that we should dig into, then by all means, we will stop and dig into it. Let me share my screen here. Put myself in the corner. There we go. Now we're looking at VantagePoint software, and we're going to dive right in. Hello, Latasha. Glad you're here. The Repo Dan, hello, hello. Keeping an eye here on the chat box. Oh, don't worry, Claudio. Tesla is on the agenda. The subject of this, or I should say the description of today's session had, what do we have? I had Tesla, NVIDIA, Ford, Apple, Rocket Labs, Lumen Technologies. These are the most active stocks traded recently, and we're going to go over all of those. I don't know if we'll have a chance to get to Lulu, but if we do, we can certainly take a look at it. We've got a lot on deck today. So let's dive in. Let's take a look at the VantagePoint software. I'm going to start with the S&P 500. And the reason I want to start there is because with all the activity going on from a Fed standpoint this week and interest rates, and tomorrow is going to be an interesting day. Friday is going to be even more interesting day with Powell talking from the symposium in Jackson Hole. What are the markets doing and expected to do based on what the artificial intelligence is saying? And you can see from an S&P 500, we're expecting overall bullishness still in the trend. We've had very, very clear forecasts in the S&P 500 from the artificial intelligence. I want to walk through what I mean by that really quickly for anybody that has not seen this before. So I'm going to get my pen going here. All right. What I mean is VantagePoint indicated, well, that's a big line. VantagePoint indicated from an artificial intelligence standpoint that we could expect some bearishness back here, right here at this crossover. I know there's a lot of people in here that haven't seen or used VantagePoint before, so I'm just going to walk through what I'm doing. I'm looking for what I call a total confirmation from the predictive indicators. A crossover indicates the trend is expected to move lower from a predicted, patented standpoint using the artificial intelligence. This indicator here in the middle is called the predicted neural index, and I'm looking at it from a strength standpoint. If I get a crossover indicating bearishness, and I get a predicted neural index forecasting bearishness and strength over the next couple of days, well, then I've got some pretty good confidence that the trend is expected to move lower. And then if I look at the predicted momentum indicators right here in the software, these lines were moving down going into that day, saying we could expect momentum to continue bearishly over the next 1, 2, and 3 days. Because of that setup, we knew that there was some major bearishness on the S&P 500 here on 7/18, so just a little bit over a month ago. And the reason I'm starting here is because you can see that in the entire time, VantagePoint was forecasting bearishness. And when we had this major pullback, we had this rout, we had this, price basically fall off a cliff for these 3 days here, August 1st, August 2nd, and August 5th. Those 3 days hurt a lot of traders that didn't have access to this predictive information. And you can see, basically, that the artificial intelligence was saying very clearly there's still some bearishness expected. Now, let me see. I got to report that the voice quality is low. Is it the volume? Let me see. Sound volume low. Check the volume on your side of things. I've got it turned up here. I can turn it up a little bit more. I just don't want to get too distorted. So I've got it turned up a little bit. Maybe that will help. If that helps, let me know. I've turned it up a little bit more. Hey, and thank you. And Michael, I appreciate that. Barbaro, glad you're here. See a lot of people into the chat now. Thank you for letting me know. Let me know if that volume works a little bit better for you. I've got it turned up more. It'll be a little bit more sensitive. So if that's the case, sorry about that, but hopefully you can hear me better. So what we're saying here from the artificial intelligence is that there was some major bearishness rolling in to those 3 days, as you can see from all of the indicators, right? All of the indicators are there saying the same thing. Here, I'll turn it up a little bit more at the risk of getting overdone, right? All right, good. Well, looking at this a bit further, you can see where the artificial intelligence, if you just walk through what I just covered, you can see where the artificial intelligence changed its track. And you can see there was some very major bullishness very clearly at the beginning of August. Why this is important, because I want everybody to understand this is what we're looking for. This confirmation for bearishness is what we're looking for, and this confirmation for bullishness is what we're looking for. And what we have right now is a lot of the same. We had some major bullishness going in from the beginning of August till now. And you can see at 6:30 p.m. last night, VantagePoint updated, and we had some bullishness going into today as well. As a matter of fact, we got a predicted low right here on the right-hand side of the chart at 6:30 each night. I get a predicted trading low for the next trade day. And it was indicating that we could see a low in the ES as low as 55. Let me see. Let me go on this predicted candle right here so we can see it. There we go. We could see a low as what is that? 55.94. I think from an ES trading standpoint, let me see if I can figure out what the low was today. 56.07. So it stayed right within that predicted trading range, and that's what I love about this technology that I use, is that I had no fear because the market didn't go any lower than what was expected from the artificial intelligence. We got a little consolidation and momentum, slight consolidation, still some bullish momentum over the next 1 day. So even though there was a little flattening of it from a predicted standpoint, that flattening started a few days ago. It hasn't slowed price down too much, just kind of kept it here today consolidated. So what does that mean going forward? So let's do some further analysis on this, because we can see that there was some really great bullishness from a trend. We can see that there was some really great bullishness from strength. And we can see that there's been some really strong bullishness from the 3-day predicted momentum indicator. Still some good bullishness from the 2-day predicted momentum indicator called the predictive difference. And slight consolidation to bullishness from the 1-day predicted momentum indicator, saying, okay, we could expect a little bit of a slowdown going into the trade day today and this week. And we're getting that even from a momentum standpoint. This is saying over the next couple of days, we've got a little bit of a slowdown going overall in price. I'm also going to put support and resistance on this so we can see what I'm looking at from potential highs and lows. And this is just remarkable. Look at this. This is an old resistance point that was set back here at the beginning of this downtrend. If you follow that old resistance point, you can see yesterday's candle stopped right at that resistance point and basically closed at that same point. What's interesting about that is if you look at where the value of that resistance point is, and these are just tools I've added in the VantagePoint software here, but the value of that is 56.27, right? 56.27. The close today was 56.23 on the ES just a few minutes ago. Why I'm pointing this out is because layering verified support and resistance levels on top of my predictive indicators in the VantagePoint software help me understand a lot about the markets, which means I can expect today for the ES to trade right within that resistance level, that gray bar, and that support level. I would expect the market to trade right within that level, and that's exactly what we got today. And moving into the markets tomorrow, we can expect some more consolidation based on what we're seeing here. Overall bullishness, there's no end to the bullish trend as of going into the open tomorrow. But again, we have FOMC at 2 o'clock, and you've always got to keep that in the back of your mind and minimize your downside risk there. But overall, from a price standpoint, it's safe to say we've got the ES moving bullishly, slowly and bullishly. The NASDAQ, almost an identical chart here, which is which is pretty remarkable. And you can see VantagePoint forecasted the NASDAQ lower back here. The Neural Index agreed. Do me a favor, go to the chat box really quickly. If you haven't used VantagePoint, or you're not using VantagePoint, or you're not part of the VantagePoint family, were you surprised by this dramatic move on the first, second, and fifth? Because I talked to a lot of traders, and one of the things I was hearing from traders is that things were starting to reverse. It had created some support and was starting to move higher, and that was unexpected, right? But you can see that from a VantagePoint standpoint, there was nothing unexpected about it. So I'm wondering if you were caught off guard by that, and if you were, let me know what happened in the chat. I'll keep my eye on the chat. The repo Dan, okay, thank you for that. Definitely caught off guard by that. And that's one of the things, that's why I do these lives, because from an educational standpoint, I'm not providing any trading advice, but from an educational standpoint, I want everybody to understand that there is a way that you can see these things coming. Yeah, so nobody knew it was going to drop that far, but when things were bearish going right up to that day, there's really no question that that's a reality. That's a potential, right? It could happen. Well, the latest trend for the NQ looks just like the ES. Matter of fact, if I put these two charts side by side, you'd be blown away at how closely they're following the same track. Matter of fact, I'm going to do that. Here, let's do that. Let me show you what I mean. Let's take off support and resistance really quickly. And I'm just literally going to put these two charts side by side. And you can see on the left, I have the ES, and on the right, I have the NQ. And they're almost exact replicas of one another. Hey, Lewis, glad you're in here. Thank you for being here. And when you look at that, you can see that this gives you a lot of confidence and confirmation. We got a bearish forecast on the NQ on 7/16, and we got a bearish forecast on the ES on 7/18, right? That's pretty valuable information, and you can see that they virtually reverse at the same time. 8/12, the reversal on the NQ, 8/13, reversal on the ES. You want to talk about confluence. You want to talk about the indicators. Still different, still doing intermarket analysis separately, providing a level of confidence that I think everybody here can use. So just wanted to point that out. And from a support and resistance standpoint, you can see we're getting virtually the same profile as we saw a second ago. We broke into this resistance level, right? Stayed above this resistance level today, which was basically where VantagePoint was predicting for the low, and stayed within that predicted high of the day. We got an NQ market today that was basically right there, right where VantagePoint expected it to trade is where it traded. And that's one of the things that really gave me confidence, is that both the ES and the NQ were saying, yeah, there's still some bullishness going on. Momentum is could say, faltering a bit, not reversing, but certainly consolidating off of the sheer bullishness that we got leading into the last few days. So we could expect a little bit of slowdown in that bullish trend. And that's what we've got, and that's what we're getting, especially with the news that's going on. For everybody that just joined, welcome. My name is Daniel. I'm with VantagePoint, and we're doing a very clear and in-depth analysis of right now the ES, the NQ, using the artificial intelligence indicators found in the VantagePoint software. Do me a favor, give me a little feedback, hop over to the chat. Is this helpful? Is this kind of analysis something that is valuable to you. And do me a favor, get involved. If you're here, you're listening, and you can hear what I'm saying, let me know if walking through the markets this way and understanding what the predictive indicators are saying right now about the markets this week is helpful for you, so that I know, whether or not this is something I should keep doing. Let me see if I got any questions here in the chat. Angela says, maybe the direction at such a point will change and the chart will go up, knocking down our stop. Angela, I'm not sure which chart you're looking at, but let's see. After the third red candle, can we buy in for your signals? So, Angela, we're not looking at the candles for any type of trend information. Thank you for asking that question. After the third red candle doesn't really mean anything because prices could keep falling. Really what we're looking for is the artificial intelligence to say, based on the global markets, there's enough bullishness expected here that things are expected to reverse. And when I say based on the global markets, let me explain what I mean by that to the people that haven't seen this before. We're looking at the NQ. And if I go into the market details on the NQ, I can show you what the artificial intelligence is analyzing specifically on the NASDAQ to do these predictions, which is why I'm not looking at the candles to make decisions. I'm using the intermarket analysis here. This is one of the patented things that the software is doing with the AI. If you look at the screen right now, you'll see the NASDAQ is in the middle. And what this is doing, and this is for Angela and anybody that hasn't seen it before, it's looking at things like light sweet crude. It's looking at the S&P 500. It's looking at the E-mini Dow, natural gas, right? It's looking at all of these different markets like the yen, the US dollar. Global markets is looking at other stocks, right? You can see XPEL Technologies, Expeditors. You can see several stocks in here, several ETFs in here. What the AI has done is it's analyzed, all of the markets around the world to figure out what's influencing the NASDAQ 100. The E-mini NASDAQ 100 is what we're looking at here. And then it's used that information to create these predictive indicators, and that process is patented. So I'm not looking at the end of this down trend or these three red candles to buy into it. I'm looking for the global market analysis to say, hey, things are shaping up for some real bullishness, and now would be a great time for that trend to start moving higher, and it did. And, I can do this on a number of assets. So let's look at light sweet crude, another one of the markets. I'm going to zoom in on this just so everybody can see the one-day forecast. Sorry about that. The one-day forecast right here on light sweet crude. You can see, look, we got a crossover, 8/16. That was Friday, saying expect some bearishness on light sweet crude going into this week's market, right? And here's how we knew that. The crossover was clear. The neural index agreed and was red, and the momentum indicators, the one-day momentum had already rolled over and turned bearish. The two-day momentum was just turning bearish. The three-day just turning bearish. So we got very clear forecast on Friday that light sweet crude oil would fall some, would pull back. Oh, thank you, by the way. Tillery and Greg, everybody's saying that this is helpful. Joe, thank you. David, Barry, good. Jake, Richard, thank you for getting involved as well. It's very, very important that as we approach, the markets each day, that we sit down and we have a process that we walk through step by step, systematic approach, so we can take the emotion out of it. And this is the process that I use. So I'm glad it's helpful for you. All right. So what this is saying is that the one-day forecast, we're looking at the one-day trend expectation of light sweet crude oil, and the neural index strength and the momentum indicators all pointing down, saying the same thing. And then yesterday at 6:30 p.m. last night, we got the same thing, right? The blue line was below, the neural index was red. Now the predictive differences have 2 days, 3 days, 5 days of bearishness indicating bearish momentum. So we got very clear indications that the idea of the movement of light sweet crude was expected to be lower. We even got a predicted high and predicted low. And you can see what VantagePoint was indicating for light sweet crude oil was a potential low. If I look at this chart, you can see a predicted low of 72.54, right? Light sweet crude oil predicted low of 72.54. The question is, how low did it go today? 72.54. You guys can look at this in your platform. Take a look at light sweet crude oil, and you can see that at the close today, light sweet crude oil had a low of 72.54, exactly to the penny. This came out at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time last night. I can't make this up. It's right there. If you, for you, those of you that are using VantagePoint and have light sweet crude oil, you can clearly see where VantagePoint forecast. It's remarkable, you know. And I look. I've been utilizing this software and looking at it for 14 years, right? 14 years. And by the way, I see some questions from Angela and Shekra how to get this AI. Just go to VantagePointForecasts.com, or we'll put the phone number in the chat. You can give us a call so that you can get this if you don't have it. But what this is saying is that the market is expected to trade within this range and could go as low as 72.54, and that's exactly what light sweet crude oil did today. Now it closed a little bit higher, right? It closed a little bit higher than the low, but it still went down to where VantagePoint indicated it would go down. When we look at support and resistance on light sweet crude oil, I'm going to add both of those real quick so we can take a look at those. You can see that there is no support above 70, right? So this could, in fact, if it has more bearish momentum, continue falling until 70 with no resistance. Nothing. When I say no resistance, I don't mean support or resistance. With nothing stopping it, no floor to hold it up. We've got a support level down here, call it 70, 50, right in that range. You can see it if I put my cursor on that support level, you can see 70, 50. That's where we would encounter a recent support level. If momentum keeps pushing this down and volume on light sweet crude oil stays the way it is, or continues to move bearishly, well, then guess what? Prices could go down to 70, 50. And right now, VantagePoint is forecasting that prices are expected to continue going down. Now, light sweet crude oil is one of those markets that can be impacted by FOMC and you know, the symposium comments from Powell this week. So you gotta be on the lookout for that. Just understand that that's the case, okay? Gold. This is a wild one. I want to show you something. I'm gonna pop this off really quickly because check this out. 10-year look back on gold. Look at that, all-time high. Look at this overall bullish trend that's been going on gold for how long now, right? And I pulled out quite dramatically on that chart, and we're looking at 10 years of it. But if I zoom back into just the last few months and I add my indicators back on, where gold is going and what gold has been able to do has been remarkable. And this was an old all-time high. Right here was an old all-time high, and people question whether or not gold can get above that. I'm going to put a little horizontal line on it right there on that high so everybody can see that was about where the old time high was. You can see if I click on that, the high says 25.30. Okay, 25.30 is where that line is. I'll even pull it back a little bit, see if we can get 25.30. There we go. Now I've got a line marked at that old all-time high, and the question was, can it get up there? Went up there, failed. Went up there, failed. And VantagePoint said there is some bullishness happening right here in gold. There is a bullish trend expectation leading up to that. There is bullish momentum leading up to that. And we had a good, strong neural index leading up to that, and we got a break of that level, right? Well, what does an old resistance point when broken after a couple of closes act like? A new support point, right? So that old resistance point, now that price has got above it and it had one close, if we get another close today of gold above that level, well, then the chances that gold move higher are high. Well, guess what? Gold's trading around 250, let me see, 2,554 today. So it went higher. Created a new time high, a new all-time high yesterday, created a new all-time high the day before that, and guess what? Created a new all-time high today, and VantagePoint forecasted bullishness on gold 8.8, right? This is how powerful the artificial intelligence is, and we can see that since these forecasts have come out, gold is up about 3.5% roughly. You know, if you trade gold from a contract from a future standpoint, that's, you know, hypothetically about an $8,500 profitable move for you using that forecast that we were just talking about, right? using these indicators, using this information has been extremely, extremely valuable. And you can see where even in volatile markets, we went back to the NASDAQ and the S&P, even in markets where people are concerned or feel fearful, there's a lot of volatility, the artificial intelligence stays consistent because it doesn't have emotion. Angela, let me see. I've got a lot of questions coming from you. Our targets to buy and sell, the maximums on minimums. Really depends on your trading style, your trading strategy. Let me see. Does the AI use volatility analysis to know when a market is ready to start up or down? Volatility is part of price. So yes, you got to remember what VantagePoint is doing is not just looking at that asset by itself. I want to remind everybody, it's not just looking at gold by itself, right? It's looking at the intermarkets that are driving that market. So I'm going to do it one more time really quickly. Here are the intermarkets for gold. Very different. Look at a lot of stocks, Eldorado Gold, Barrick Gold, Goldfields. Very different than what we looked at for NASDAQ. Here's Cedar Fair. Like, what in the world does Cedar Fair have to do with gold? The AI has figured out that it's influencing the price of gold. This is what the AI is doing specifically to figure out the direction that an asset or a commodity or an ETF or a cryptocurrency is expected to go. So that's what we're analyzing. All right, let's keep it moving. Let's look at the dollar. Now we've got a devaluing dollar. We know that's the case. If you didn't know that's the case, surprise. Inflation, devaluation of the dollar, it's happening. VantagePoint forecasted very clear bearishness 731. So at the end of the month last night, there was bearishness expected on the dollar right there. We got our confirmation we needed. We got momentum saying, hey, dollar's expected to fall moving forward. How great would it have been to know that was the case? For those of you that have VantagePoint, you know that's the case. I knew that was the case by looking at this. You can see it. It comes up in the scan. The tools in VantagePoint are identifying it very clearly. But just look at that. Look at what happened to the dollar. This is the forecast, right? Look at what happened to the dollar just right there. If I just go from the high point to the low point here, see that? That's a substantial fall in the value of the dollar. It went from 104 at the high point, let's see, 104.23 to 101.94. VantagePoint indicated the bearishness the day before that. Since then, there's been immense bearishness forecasted, and even going in today, look, as of 6:30 last night, here's how I look at that. We've got increasing bearishness in the trend because the gap is widening. I've got a blue line pulling away from that gray line. That red shaded area is getting wider, indicating certainly a bearish trend expectation here. The neural index is red, and the momentum indicators were trying to gain some strength and couldn't, and we got lower highs in the one-day momentum. We got a reversal in the two-day momentum for the last couple of days, and the three-day momentum is also reversed in the last couple of days, saying not enough bears. This is a lower high from the beginning of that trend till now. Here's the three-day momentum. If I connect those two high points, folks, we just got bearishness and bearishness and bearishness from the beginning of that trend. No surprise, the value of the dollar was going to fall some more today. And it fell pretty dramatically for one day. VantagePoint forecasted a potential low. We look in the top left corner, we can see a potential low of, we'll call it 101.60. Dollar fell farther than that, fell further since then. And those of you using this forecast and this information knew it was coming and were able to protect yourself or maximize. For those of you that short the dollar, for those of you that trade Forex and you're trading anything against the dollar, that you can see there's a dramatic opportunity there for you to do very well. You know, we could go look at a Forex pair right now. I don't know if we have any Forex traders in here, but if we look at a Forex pair right now, for instance, the Euro USD, you can see that this thing's just running rampant because of the devaluation in the dollar. Look at that. The euro against the dollar has an incredible foreign exchange forecast that could have produced quite handsomely because of the fall of the dollar, and it was all identified very clearly using the artificial intelligence. Look, hypothetical gains there on one full-size lot. It's about $1,500, right? That's substantial in just a matter of a few weeks' time. From a pip standpoint, it's 159 pips in the Euro USD. For those of you that trade Forex, you know, right? And if you know, you know. So you can see it. Let's take a look at Tesla. Tesla had a really strong forecast back here. Folks, look at the screen right now. Just take a look at this. This shows the real value. Hey, Lane, I see you in the comments. Thanks for popping in. Lane Mendelson, folks, our president, tapping into today's live. Always great to have you here. Thank you for that. Momer's asking about themes. Let me see. It has 3 bullets, 3 green. Go ahead, buy. Not sure, Momer, what your question is. But you can reach out to us. Again, go to VantagePoint software, or excuse me, VantagePointForecast.com, or you can give us a call. And if you have the software, talk with your coach. Your question is not coming across quite clearly enough for me to understand it. If you want to rephrase it, I'll try again. Angela, AI shows a price 1 to 3 days forward. Can you buy an option and be calmed down on what my option will be within a profit? Yeah, Angela, let's take a look at Tesla. For you options traders out there, let's do analysis on Tesla, and I'm going to go all the way from left to right. I know we're all interested in the right-hand side of the chart, but getting some good questions about how to use this from an options or from a trading standpoint. So let me just walk through the whole chart step by step, right? This is how, on a regular basis, this artificial intelligence can help. So if we're looking at this, we get a crossover right here. 613. I'm just going to go left to right, whole chart. 613, 2024, get a crossover, and VantagePoint at that point, the close of the market on that day was 182.47 for Tesla. That's when VantagePoint, the first time you would see VantagePoint indicated bullishness. Angela, I love all your questions, by the way. You can see indicated bullishness, the neural index agreed, and we had predictive differences creating bullish momentum forecast. So all the artificial intelligence is saying bullish, bullish, bullish across the board. All right. So now I know if I'm just simply buying calls, buying puts, just simple verticals on Tesla, I'm looking to buy some puts. I got to close around 182.47. I'm looking to set a strike price expiration at 30 to 45 days out, right? So we're in the middle of June. We can go to the August expiration if I wanted to, or I could go to the July expiration, depending on your trade style. Grabbing the July expiration, not a bad idea because that, like I say, 30 to 45 days. Expiration, let's see, July 19th, right? So July 19th is the expiration. I'm going to drop a line right on July 19th, right here, so we can see where you would put your expiration, all right? And this is for Angela, anybody else trading options. So we know we're looking from a call standpoint around 182 close price, expiration right here on July 19th. If I'm looking to get into a position, I'm using that predicted high and predicted low to find a strike price that is touching that predicted high and predicted low, right? Maybe I'm buying at the money around 182. Maybe I'm just buying outside of the money a little bit at 183, 84, depending on where the options chain was at that time. But regardless, if I have an expiration of July 19th and I'm buying a call at this point, or 4 or 5 calls, let's do 5 calls at that point, as long as the blue line stays above the black line, I can continue with that trend, Angela. And then when that blue line crosses below, or I hit my target, maybe your options target is 50% gain. Maybe it's 150% gain. I don't know what your trade style is, but let's say you're just basically going off of the VantagePoint indicators. You could ride that trend until you see the crossover to the downside. Now I'm looking for confluence in the indicators. Bearishness, total confirmation from my 4 points of confirmation. Bearishness prior to expiration. That means I don't have to hold till expiration at any point. I can exit. I can get out of that option at any point I hit my target, or when VantagePoint indicates Tesla's expected to move lower, right? And let's say you use that from an underlying standpoint. The underlying asset at Tesla here moved 35% bullishly in 22 trading days. We were talking about 5 contracts. That's controlling 500 shares minus premium. What is that? A $20,000 hypothetical gain right there. Trading options on Tesla using the artificial intelligence forecast. That's the power in the software, is regardless of whether you trade the underlying or the option, or you're a futures or commodities trader, Forex, the artificial intelligence can generate those forecasts. Now, at that point, I lock in those gains. Call it a $20,000 gain with 5 contracts. Look, I'll kick it down to 100 shares or 1 contract, right? You can see right there in one move, it's about a $3,000 or $4,000 gain after premium. All right. Well, when we got to cross to the downside, that means I could buy a put if I want to. Same process. July 17th. I can set my expiration out to the August expiration, right? That would be August 16th. So I just had to check my dates here. Here's August 16th. I'm going to drop a line on August 16th and say, all right, I'm buying a put. As long as there's my expiration. At the point that I got this cross to the downside was at 250. If I buy a put at 250, 255 out of the money, maybe I'm buying it at in the money, maybe I'm buying it out of the money at 245. Regardless, I'm buying a put and I can run that until the crossover or I hit my target. Maybe it does this and you hit your target and you say, all right, fine, I'm up 100% on my option, I'm out. That's the great thing about how this software works, is that it's not your trading platform. You can keep that where it is. It's not telling you what to do with your trade. It's telling you what the market is expected to do so that you can apply that for your trading style. What I'm running through is a very simple option strategy for using this information. And by the way, if there's anybody in here that is using VantagePoint from this standpoint, from using it for options, and you're seeing the success in it, let me know in the comments box, because what I'm walking through is what we train day in and day out here at VantagePoint about using this information. So now let's look on the right-hand side of the chart. Claudio, I was getting there, man. I was getting there, my friend. I appreciate it. I love it. I love the enthusiasm. Claudio's like, can you show me about going forward? Yeah, look, it's right here on the screen. That's the great part about it. Got a crossover. The neural index agrees. Look, crossover, bullish, bullish. We got our momentum indicator. Look at how powerful, folks. Look at how powerful the momentum indicators are down here at the bottom. This was still going down. Momentum said, okay, momentum is shifting bullishly right here at the bottom. Call it 8.7. Maybe you don't wait to expiration. Maybe you take that to reduce your time decay because you're getting close to expiration. Sure, great. Play it that way. That's a great way to use it depending on your trading style. Momentum, bullish, bullish, bullish. We got a lot of bullish guys, and we're going into this week with FOMC. We're going into this week with Jackson Hole and all the fundamental conversations that are happening. Last week, the beginning of the week, VantagePoint said Tesla is turning bullishly, right? Well, take a look at that. 5 Tesla calls, grab today, 3 months out. Okay, so you set your expiration a little further than 30 to 45 days, no problem. The forecast for these was 8.14 last week. VantagePoint indicated that's when Tesla was expected to move higher. If you grab those today, you missed out on a very substantial move to the upside. Unfortunately, Claudio, sorry to hear that. But if you're running your scan, you would have seen this very clearly on 8.14. Even on the one-day forecast, it might have been in a day sooner. Since VantagePoint forecasted this up, the underlying asset is up 8%. From an option standpoint, what is that? 25% right there in 3 trading days. 5 contracts on that move based on that forecast is a substantial move to the upside, just using the very simple strategy that I laid out, right? Good. I think everybody has seen it. Let me see if I got some questions I'm missing. Hey, Claudio, it's awesome. I love it. Yeah, this AI can work for beginners. It can work for advanced traders. We professional traders in the business, money managers, hedge fund, across the board. VantagePoint has been helping traders now for 33 years using artificial intelligence. And our company, VantagePoint AI, has been helping traders for 45 years. So what we're talking about is patented, it's proven. This isn't something that just came around in the last couple of years. You're hearing a lot about artificial intelligence all over the internet. Don't get tricked. Don't get bamboozled by these companies and these things that are saying, we've got this new groundbreaking artificial intelligence. Number one, artificial intelligence is not new, right? Artificial intelligence has become a buzzword in the last 5 years, but we've been applying it the way I'm showing you since 1991, and traders all around the world have been using it that long. We are the originators of this kind of analysis, and we're the only people doing it as proven by our patents. So, all right, so we're getting more bullish as expected. Claudio, take a look. We've got a resistance level up here on Tesla, right? That a resistance level could put them some bearish pressure on price. The fundamentals being talked about this week could put some bearish pressure on price. We saw it move up higher today and then pull back. right? This level at 234 is a level that's important to understand. You know, the high today was 228, so it was only $6 off of that resistance level that could hold price down. So although you got your options a little bit late, VantagePoint is certainly still indicating some overall bullishness, just not a bullish rally for Tesla. So time decay may be impacted a little bit just because you got in a little bit late on that move, even though the AI forecasted it at the beginning of last week. So, by the way, the amount of time it takes to do this analysis each day, let's look. Let's look at NVIDIA. Look on the right-hand side of the chart. I'm going to zoom in for you. Check this out. Blue line crossed above. Neural index stayed above. Neural index is green. Predicted momentum indicators are pushing higher. Predicted high and predicted low expected to be higher than the previous day for NVIDIA. So what we're seeing right now in NVIDIA is bullishness expected in the overall trend direction based on the VantagePoint indicators. How long did it take for us to see that and talk about that? 30 seconds? So it doesn't take very long. We could go further and layer on verified support and resistance. I can layer on some predicted momentum indicators. And what we're seeing is that we could expect NVIDIA to trade today between the predicted low of 127.59 and the predicted high of 132.72. We're expecting NVIDIA today to trade within that range and the trend expected to continue higher. And that's what we got. One note of caution, momentum. On the one-day, momentum has flattened a little bit, which tells me this bullish trend is expected to continue. It's just not going to be dramatic at this point. And I knew that going into today. And today, the trend overall price moved up a little bit higher from a typical price standpoint, just as expected. It just didn't get above yesterday's close and stay above it. So it traded right within the lower half of that candle. Using the artificial intelligence, again, very quickly, you're able to draw that conclusion. I hope everybody can see that here. If you got questions on it, hey, Michael, I love it. I use for options every day, doing very well. Thank you. Which trading platforms do I suggest, Gina? I don't suggest trading platform. I don't make recommendations. My suggestion is to go out and figure out the fees for the different trading platforms, the interfaces for the different trading platforms, and find one that matches your experience. Some are easier for newer traders, some are more complex, but find one that looks like you can use it and our fees are in line with your capital and what you're looking to. But I don't make any recommendations on platforms because there's just so many out there and so many resources. I leave that up to them, right? Good, thank you for that. Appreciate it. Claudio, a lot of people have done that. You said I used some guru traders, lost money, VantagePoint operating system, all I use now. Well, I'm glad you said that because I think that's something that happens. Schwab keeps assigning your options, Gina. And I don't think it's Schwab assigning your options. It's probably the people that are buying your options, executing. Maybe they're using VantagePoint. Because remember, there's always a buyer and a seller. There's always a buyer and a seller. If your options are getting assigned to you, then that's something that you have to consider. I don't know what tools you're using, Gina, and take a look at it, but obviously that's something to think about as you're going. That somebody is making a decision to get out of that option on you. Okay, here is Ford, right? DTE expiration, 0 DTE. Yeah, we've got a lot of day traders that use 0 DTE. There's no reason that you couldn't. Remember, VantagePoint is forecasting some very powerful moves. And a 0 DTE type of trade, you'd use a short-term forecast on it, the one-day forecast. For instance, if I go down to the one-day forecast, here's some really powerful trades on Ford. There's actually 3 trends that were forecasted on Ford. One here, very bullish. One here, very bearish. And one here, very bullish. I put these, this is one of the most active stocks traded recently, and you can see if I'm getting a cross to the upside, right, and I'm using 0 DTE options, I'm getting a cross to the upside, and I get a neural index that agrees, and I get a very strong momentum indicator. I didn't have the strongest momentum indicator I wanted. I could trade a 0 DTE, or I could look for a 0 DTE option, right, depending on what you're trading and what the expiration is. The expiration of the week we're looking at here, what is this, 8-8? would have been 8.9. So this is an exact example of something you can do from a 0DT expiration. The next day, you know you're looking to buy some quick calls on this, and when the market opens and you see it run up and hit your target, you can exit that position and close that trade. That's a 0DT option strategy that you've got to be in front of your computer to watch. But did VantagePoint indicate that there was bullishness the next day that you could have taken advantage of with that strategy? Absolutely. No doubt about it. Same thing this week, right? Same thing last week. If you look at this, the expiration on Ford, 8/16. So 8/15, you download your data. You see the blue line is above. You see the neural index is green. You see you got a nice strong slope on that 1-day predicted momentum. You've also got some support from the 2 and the 3-day predicted momentum. So you're looking to buy some 0DT options the next trade day, and you can see Ford closed at the high that day. You want to talk about a very profitable move on a 0DT day trading option strategy. Let me just see who was asking. I'm sorry, I need to flip over to the chat and make sure we're on the same page. 0DTE. Lorenzo, there you go. I think that's how you can see it, and you can see exactly how that strategy could work for you, right? How that strategy could work for you. All right, so if you're swing trading this or buying some shorter term options, maybe you're doing weekly options, in my opinion, can create some really quick gains for you. But I find that you end up cutting that option off before it fully matures. So right here, here's a great example. Look at this. Right here is Ford was forecasted to go down, 719, right? Next day, you're looking to buy some puts to the downside on that. The close price on 719 after that forecast was 13.98. You could buy a put at 14, set your expiration out to August 16th, and when the crossover happens again or you hit your target, you can exit that position. Just that one move alone in Ford going from crossover to crossover, the underlying asset moved down 28.97% on the underlying. Ford is a value stock, right? It's right now, I mean, it was down around $10 a share. So you could easily get maybe 10 contracts of that. And you can see that is a very powerful move to the downside, right? That's the information here. That's the information that you can use day in and day out. And even now, the bullish move on Ford from the crossover until the close yesterday, a very strong bullish move. Folks, we're talking about from a hypothetical gain standpoint, this is the underlying asset moving dramatically on Ford. You're talking about 38, 46, that's 50% gain in just 3 trends on Ford. If, the underlying asset, if you bought at the crossover and sold at the crossover up until, the closing bell yesterday, that's how this is intended to be used, right? Let me take a look at the chat real quick. Can we see the volumes that are pouring into the market? Sure, yeah, you can throw volume on that. Absolutely, why not? You can see how volumes pour in. But is that going to help you? Remember, volume is a past price indicator, right? Volume's a past. Now, it's not that it's invaluable. It is. You can see that volume turned from, at the recent crossover on Ford, volume turned from bearish to increasing bullish volume at that same time. So that can give you an extra confidence. Same thing here, right? If we're talking about volumes right here on this day, you can see they went from bullish to increasing bearish at the same time the crossover happened. That gives you confidence. Yes, Angela, you can layer volumes onto that. Absolutely, right? And that's what our traders are trained to do, is layer these indicators to increase their confidence, get confluence, what I like to call confirmation. All right, let's take a look at Apple. Do some analysis on Apple. A really good trend going on Apple as well. Apple has been up dramatically. Apple and Nvidia started just moving around the same time. Look, if you look at Nvidia, you can see 1, 2, 3. This move on Nvidia from the low to where it is now almost mirrors this move on Apple from the low to where it is now. And a lot of people ask the question of, why did Apple make that move? Do you have that question in your mind? If you do, I can tell you the answer. Earnings dropped Apple dramatically, right? You can see where earnings pushed Apple to. Right after earnings, it kind of fell off a cliff. And traders said, not my Apple. And they saw that as a great buy point, right? So the sentiment on Apple, and you can see there was old resistance, old support back here. When prices fell that low and got down, bulls sitting on Apple, waiting for Apple to drop down 25 bucks a share, said, now's my chance, bought into it, ran it up, right? And you can see exactly how that happened. And that's going to happen. With accuracy up to 87.4%, that is going to happen. When did the artificial intelligence say, okay, we have a verified trend, not just an emotional one on Apple, not just a trader sentiment one on Apple? Look, I'm on the one-day forecast. Verified trend on that one-day forecast is right here. After that emotion has left the market, the intermarket said 8.8, okay, all right, this is a good move. It's not a high-risk move post-earnings. Earnings have, you kind of wait 72 hours for that earnings news to get absorbed, and then the intermarkets take over, and the move on Apple from that time until the close yesterday, a very strong move, 6.5% from the forecast till that close. Now let me show you something. See this resistance point right here? Where did Apple go to and stop? Pop quiz, everybody. Where did Apple go to and stop that resistance point? Here comes a pop quiz. Why did it stop there? Go into the chat really quickly. I'm going to get a drink of water, but let me know in the chat why Apple went there and stopped there. What are two main drivers for a trend that is moving bullishly to get to an old resistance point and slow down and stop? I know we've got some high volatility traders out there. I know we've got some people that are trading consistently in the markets and are technical analysis gurus. I'd love for you to hop into the chat and let me know, why would we see prices go up to an old resistance point or an old high and stop? What's the explanation? I've tried to call. I'm not sure what you mean. That phone number rings right through to our team. So, okay. Barbaro says prior high. Yeah, it's a prior high, but why does it stop? Right? That's the question. Buyers trapped at highs. Here's why. Momentum has shifted. And when momentum is shifting, right, resistance gets a whole lot stronger. If you had constant bullish momentum going right up to that, you would see a break of that resistance a lot of the time. Not 100% of the time. But when momentum shifts, price says, uh-oh, do I need to stop here? Like, that's how it's so funny. Sometimes I look at the markets and they talk to me like that. And when you look at it, you can see it's like, okay, there's resistance. Price is moving up to the resistance. Momentum is shifted off and is starting to slow down. Well, that's important, right? Barbaro says buyers trapped at highs, psychology, traders like consistency, trader sentiment, volume. Volume and momentum can give you incredible hints around how likely price is expected to break a resistance level. What do you see going up to that? You've got bullish momentum that is falling, slowly turning bearish. At the same time, volume. You got bullish volume that is stagnant and falling, and you have bullish momentum that is shifted, consolidated, and now turning bearish on the one-day momentum, and then getting a little stale on the two-day momentum indicator. So what you've got is volume and momentum peeling off Apple. Pun not intended. But if momentum and volume are peeling off of Apple, then it's going to be very hard for Apple to break that resistance level and keep on going. Now, it doesn't mean it can't. Matter of fact, look at the predicted high and predicted low in VantagePoint. Look, the predicted high says, yeah, you could see Apple stay above that resistance point and could even move higher. Well, let's go take a look at Apple. We'll pull it up here. Apple moved up to 227.17 today, closed at 226.51. So exactly what VantagePoint indicated. The AI said, yeah, there's a resistance point there. Momentum's peeling off a little bit, but you can still expect Apple to rise. That's what the AI said, and that's what Apple did based on today's movement. And you can go check that yourself, but you can see that even though price came up and stalled at that resistance level, the AI said, yeah, but there is enough going on in the inner markets that drive Apple to keep pushing it higher. And I tell you what, that's pretty valuable information to have from an Apple standpoint, and it's nice to see, and there's still room, guys. There's still room. Look at this verified resistance zone. It's a pretty big zone. The next stopping point is 236.72. So if we get a couple of closes above this resistance level, and then we get momentum to work back in, because VantagePoint is still indicating bullishness in Apple, then 236 is the next stop, right? Gina, does Fibonacci, or I assume you're saying Bollinger Bands, have any influence? Fibonacci is also a support and resistance indicator. Bollinger Bands is a volatility indicator, is looking for reversion to mean. All of those indicators are extra indicators, but have been enhanced in VantagePoint with the artificial intelligence. So if you've got the software, talk to your coach about that. If you don't, once you learn the basis for how to interpret these indicators, then Bollinger Band and Fibonacci are levels of analysis that are valuable. What we've done here at VantagePoint is enhance them with the AI so that they're predicted Bollinger Bands and predicted Fibonacci levels, right? Yeah, there's absolutely a scanner. We'll get to that in a second. I want to finish with the analysis that I promised in the description of today's session, which includes Rocket Labs. Rocket Lab is very, very valuable. From where it was to where it is now. Look at this, 8.9 to where it is now. Yesterday it closed at 7.18. VantagePoint said Rocket Labs could go down as low today as 668. Well, think about that. It closed yesterday at 720. That's a pretty dramatic drop, but you have to be prepared for that. And the artificial intelligence is warning you that that's a possibility. VantagePoint forecasted on 8.9 some bullishness. We got it after earnings. Earnings happen. We got to give it that 72-hour period. I always let that 72 hours shake itself out 1, 2, 3 days post earnings. 8.14 for my trade strategy. And when I look at, this is at the first point that I say, okay, earnings is done. It got a gap, shook itself out. Now the inner markets are taking back over. Rocket Labs on 8.14 is where I see the bullishness coming. And that's open for an opportunity to buy the next day at 5. Roughly 24 at the market open. Where do we open here? 525. And that is just a substantial move to the upside very quickly on Rocket Labs. And, there's going to be some profit taking. Something moves up 36% in 3 or 4 trading days. Expect profit taking. Don't think that it's just going to keep on running, right? But 10,000 shares of Rocket Lab produces, hypothetically, a $20,000 move, 1,000 shares, $1,000 or $2,000 move right there. And you can see, no matter how you trade, no matter how much capital you have, the AI produced a very valuable forecast right after earnings to generate some major gains. Now, we can layer on support and resistance. We can layer on, look, I'll even layer on a predicted MACD. For all you MACDs out there, VantagePoint has a predicted MACD available as an add-on, but I'm going to add it on here in this session just so everybody can see. This is a predicted MACD that provides you a one-day forecast of MACD momentum, and you can see there's bullishness, and there was bullishness right there on that same day that all of the VantagePoint indicators agreed after earnings. So did the predicted MACD, and this thing just skyrocketed. Again, another pun. I don't know. Maybe it just happened. I didn't mean to do it, but Rocket Labs did skyrocket, and today there was certainly some profit taking, right? Is it true? Angela asking, is it true? It soon will be only futures and options. I couldn't say whether that's true or not. I think that's just people talking. People talking. Do I have a ticker that tracks liquidity in and out of the market? When you say liquidity, I have, from a volatility standpoint, we look at the VIX to see what kind of volatility there is. That can give you a great insight into bullishness or bearishness, right? And that's one of the things that we do have a lot of volume indicators based on the overall market, so we can certainly help you work through that one. Lumen Technologies, the last one I wanted to talk about. Just wanted to shed some light on what's happening from a Lumen standpoint. Very big bullish trend, folks. This is the benefit of using the artificial intelligence. And yes, the scanner would have identified a bullish trend very clearly here on Lumen on 7-Eleven at least. Probably, for you conservative traders out there, 7-Eleven is a very clear forecast for the upside. For those of you that like to trade penny stocks, you can see that from that forecast until yesterday's close, Lumen Technology just lit up. 400% gain. 400% gain. And VantagePoint said that trend isn't over. Look, zoom in on this with me. Look, the blue line is above the gray line, still moving higher. The Neural Index is green. Do we have momentum peeling off? Yes. So that means we got to protect our downside by using a very clear stop loss. Maybe you use the predicted low. Maybe you use the low of the last 72 hours. However you slice and dice your trading strategy, you got to protect your downside, in my opinion. I'm not providing trading advice, but if you're not looking to minimize your downside risk before you look to maximize your potential, then you're just gambling. And that's no way to create consistency, in my opinion. So we can see that momentum on Lumen has been peeling off since this major run to the upside. It's clear the momentum, predicted momentum indicators and VantagePoint are saying, hey, folks, things are starting to peel off from a momentum standpoint, and you need to protect your downside. Well, Lumen ran up again today. VantagePoint forecasted the trend to be higher, forecasted some strength in that trend. Although momentum is peeling off, Lumen still moved higher. VantagePoint predicted a potential high of 613, and the Lumen high today was 628. So again, for those who are using this information up 400%, look, this is an absolute grand slam. This isn't going to happen all the time. But I had people asking about it, interested in it, and I wanted to make sure everybody here saw whether it's a penny stock, whether it's a consistent stock or a $1 trillion company, as long as the artificial intelligence can do that patented intermarket analysis, it provides a lot of really great information for traders like you and me looking to speculate and capture some gains from a swing trading standpoint. That's the bread and butter of the software. You can see from today's analysis, whether it's the ES, the dollar, there's been some very, very powerful forecasts, even going in to such a talked about week from a Fed standpoint, from a rate standpoint, from a monetary policy standpoint. The AI has been accurate and true. Let's talk about scanning here in just a second, but I'm going to bring up for our friend here, Claudio, Lululemon, so we can take a look at this. Claudio, what's your position on Lululemon? You've asked about it a few times, so I assume it's because there's a position on it. VantagePoint forecast at the end of this big, long downtrend back here, right? Question, would this have come up in the scan? Answer, yes. Why? The blue line crossed above. The Neural Index is green, right? We're getting higher lows from the momentum indicators indicating bullishness. VantagePoint indicated a good move on Lulu on 813. Entry possible on 814. Get an entry on 814. The blue line is still above, the Neural Index is still green, and the predictive difference are still pointing higher. Claudio, I don't know what day you bought your calls out to October, but you can see based on the forecast, just since, oh, wrong day here. We said it was 814. Let me grab the right day. Just since that point. And I'm going to go from, let's go from the open to the close. Right? Roughly. It's not exact, but you get the point. Since VantagePoint forecasted it, Lululemon is up 6.46%. 5 contracts. Did you say? Yep, 5 contracts. There's a substantial gain there from that forecast till now. What is expected to do? Well, let's put on some helpful indicators like verified support and resistance. Why is verified support and resistance valuable? Look at your screen. When you look at Lulu, when you look at what's going on from a Lulu chart standpoint, where did Lulu stall yesterday and today? Old resistance point. See it? Marked right there on my chart. Did I have an indication that there was a weakening momentum? Yeah, absolutely. Did I have an indication that I had weakening volume? Yeah, still bullish volume, but weakening bullish volume. So my momentum rolled over and started pointing down from a 1-day standpoint. My 2-day flattened out. My volume decreased. So I know there's already a threat to this resistance stalling price. Is VantagePoint indicating there is enough resistance there to stop price from moving higher? No, VantagePoint indicated that we would expect to see prices on Lulu predicted high today. 261.61, Claudio. That was a predicted high today. Lulu traded at 261.32, so it didn't get quite that high, but still, today was an up day, and it moved higher than yesterday's close. So this is an example of where the trend forecast from the AI is saying bullishness, the strength is saying bullishness, one of three momentum indicators indicating bullish, and still bullish volume. So again, doesn't mean it's going to reverse and fall. It just means that resistance point is going to need a little coercing to get broken and stay above it because momentum is slowing down and so is volume. Hopefully that's valuable analysis for you, my friend, and anybody else interested in Lululemon. The key here is that it's valuable to understand with the predictive indicators where those levels are. From a gap analysis standpoint, Barbara, look, this is a gap. This is a bullish gap with a high range day green. Does anybody here know when you have a bullish gap, meaning it gaps up with a higher range day and it's a up day, what does that mean about the future price? If you haven't done gap analysis or read any studies on it, that's okay. It's something that we talk about here at VantagePoint and we teach. So I'm wondering if there's anybody that's a VantagePoint user that knows it well. But it absolutely gap up with a high range day that is a up day indicates trend extension to the bullish side. That's what gap analysis says, is something like 61% of the time when you see that scenario, you can expect that move. And when don't quote me on the percentage, right? I don't have the study here up in front of me, but when you're stacking the odds in your favor and using probabilities to your advantage, these are the things that you tend to see and look at. All right, so good. We're on the same page. I think everybody can see you're welcome. Glad to hear that. UNG, BABA, please. I don't know if I want to get to the scanner, but we can certainly look at UNG. The last two I'll pop up on the screen. But if we look at UNG, that's the United Natural Gas Fund. Got a great forecast to the upside here on 8.8. Who is that asking? Z, look at the screen. You can see it here. Now at 6:30 last night, VantagePoint said bullishness expected, the neural index green, and the predictive differences, the momentum indicators are trying to do this little turn to the upside. A predicted high expected to be higher than the previous day, predicted low expected. So we still have some bullishness expected in UNG's trend. That's on top of the bullishness that's happened so far. From the forecast to now, it's up 4%. So still bullishness expected on UNG based on the AI. Another caveat, don't forget, we're talking about some major fundamental, policy this week. So you gotta keep that in mind. And here is BABA. BABA forecasting some bullishness, VantagePoint forecasting some bullishness. We just recently had earnings on BABA. You can see that here. So we need about another day for earnings to shake out, okay? This is an earnings gap, and we need, I shouldn't say we need, my strategy, my strategy says give it 3 days, 72 hours. That's 1, 2, today's 3 days before I look at BABA from a technical analysis, a predicted technical analysis standpoint in VantagePoint. So for me, not something I'm interested in right now because trading into earnings requires a different trade plan, and then trading after earnings for me requires a 72-hour trader sentiment, earnings sentiment cool-off period in my book, right? So right now, from an artificial intelligence standpoint, not something that I would do analysis on or even consider because earnings is still fresh, and the emotional trading that happens after earnings will throw off any technical analysis. Doesn't matter what it is. Even with that, think about that. VantagePoint is accurate up to 87.4% of the time. Think about that number. If you trade 100 days using this information, even at, heck, let's just call it an easy 80%, average 80%. If you can trade 100 days with an accuracy of trend direction at 80%, you'd probably be right 80 out of 100 days. Anybody here upset about being right 80 out of 100 days? I mean, I tell my kids I'm right 100 out of 100 days, but we know it's probably more like 80, right? Nobody here is complaining about being right 80 out of 100 days. And that's kind of a rhetorical question, but you get my larger point that is pretty valuable information. All right, scanning, and then we're going to be out of here. It's been a pretty in-depth session. Thank you for all the announcements, but let's talk scanning for a second. If I go to IntelliScan up here in the top left corner, VantagePoint has a scanning feature where I can build a customized scan to go look for fresh new opportunities, right? And you can see in my scan, if you don't have the software, you may not know what the headers are, but this is the blue line, the crossover. This is a neural index. That's one of the indicators we look at here in the middle of the screen. Here's my momentum indicators, my 1 day, 2 day, and 3 day momentum. Here's my predicted high and predicted low, and then I've got dollar volume in there. So exactly what I was doing analysis on the charts, I can do right here in my scan. And I can go in and say, you know what, only show me things that are expected based on the artificial intelligence to go up. And all I have to do is put up, up, very easy, right? Not complex, not complicated. And then from a volume standpoint, I use dollar volume. So I'm going to use greater than or equal to 20 million. Dollar volume multiplies the number of shares traded by the share price. It's a little bit different than volume, but it gives me a more accurate picture of liquidity in my opinion. So I want at least 20 million shares traded to make sure I have very highly liquid opportunities. And now I can just take the entire US stock market in the market tree on the left, drag it into my scanner and let go of my mouse button. And what it's going to do is it's going to pull in over 1,500 individual stocks and boom, I didn't even finish my sentence. 280 opportunities out of 1,700 expected, 1,700 individual stocks that are forecasted by VantagePoint, 280 expected bullishness. I don't want to look at 280 charts. So I'm going to whittle this down and say, show me the crossovers that happened within the last 3 days. Okay. Now we're down to 120. Still too many. I could whittle this a little bit further, right? Show me the crossovers that happened in the last 1 day. How about that? 29 fresh crossovers. Great place to start, right? I'm going to sort this by dollar volume and find the things that have the most volume traded. 612 million shares on Pepsi. So I can go look at the Pepsi chart and see that I got a crossover to the upside. I see my neural index is green. So at 6:30 last night, VantagePoint said there is bullishness expected in Pepsi. And all the predictive indicators that we're looking at in VantagePoint are expecting Pepsi to move higher today on 8/20. I have to go pull up Pepsi and see how great that scan was. Let's go look. Who was asking for a scan? Do you have a ticker? Tracks liquidity, buyers. I lost the person that asked for a scan. Anyway, if somebody could go check on Pepsi's while I'm pulling it up and looking for this person, let me know where it is. Did it go up today based on what the scan did? And we just built a scan in 10 seconds. So, oh, Greg, there you are. Greg Hawkins. Is there a scanner that shows potential crossovers? Okay, there you go, Greg. So if we go look at Pepsi right now, Pepsi today was up 1.17%. It opened at 173.53 and closed at 175.85. So, Greg, that was a $2.30 move. And the scanner identified, remember, 6:30 at night is the update. So at 6:30 last night, it said Pepsi is a good potential opportunity, and somebody looking to grab a quick bullish move to the upside could have done well. The next one down, Honeywell International, Greg. So look, it scanned, found 29. I just sorted them by most dollar volume. Honeywell International. Let's do our analysis on Honeywell. Fresh crossover to the upside. Neural index is green. Predictive difference is moving higher. Predicted high and predicted low expected to be higher. Question is, did Honeywell move higher today as VantagePoint predicted in the scan? Now the scan is not an ATM, so it's not going to work out 100% of the time. But Honeywell is up a 0.5 percentage point today. Look at that. It opened at 199 and closed at 207 cents. Anybody mad about taking a buck out of the market in 1 day based on a scan that took 7 seconds to make? I'm not. But hopefully, Greg, that answered your question. Can I sort the scan by the highest range expected in the last 3 days? You can sort a scan by the highest range expected the next trade day, right? VantagePoint predicts the trading range. So I can go down into the predicted trading range and I can from a scanning standpoint, if I want to know the predicted trading range, I can put that in the scan and I can say, show me the things and sort based on the things that have the biggest range. Now remember, share prices are relative, so we can use percentage and see from a trading standpoint whether or not there's a stock here that meets my trade criteria that gives me a good opportunity. 10% of that is 85 cents, a very, very low priced stock, right? Symbiotic. Yes, the answer is yes, you can add certain indicators right into your scan and then create some sorts and some filters. Look, this was designed to identify powerful opportunities based on the way that you trade. So I guess the answer to that question is yes. And if you need help with that, Gina, if you've got the software, I'm not sure if you do. If you're a VantagePoint family member, let me know that. By the way, for all the VantagePoint family members that are in today's session, thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of the VantagePoint family. For those of you that don't have the software and might be interested in it, go to VantagePointForecasts.com and we can reach out to you or give us a call. The phone number is in the chat. I really enjoy taking the time and walking through these indicators. I love the power in the artificial intelligence in VantagePoint. So the more people I get to share it with, the better. I'm gonna wind down this session for today. I think this has been a value. Gina, thank you for being part of the VantagePoint family. She says yes, 3 years. I love it. I love it. I love it. Again, thank you for being here. Thank you for letting me give you the view from my vantage point. Have a happy trading week this week and be careful. Remember, trading involves risk. Nothing is perfect, especially with the news that's going on this week. Have a great day, everybody.